Hello, welcome to a vlog about my new desk and my new work area, which I'm really proud of. So when we bought this house, we decided to make this room into what we called at the time the Hemingway room, and not because of my internet nom de internet, but because of Ernest Hemingway and his room that he had at his house in Cuba, which we really liked the design of, and we wanted to model this room after it because we always knew that this area was going to be our work area, either for our jobs or for our various pursuits that my wife and I have. So at that time, the shelves only came to about here, and we actually had far fewer books 10 years ago. But that design worked really well for a while, but it didn't take long as many of my wife's books arrived from the UK and other places, and some of mine as well, that we realized that we needed yet more storage. So I think it was right about the time that, or after my daughter was born, that we decided to go higher and turn it into a wall of books. Now, the only thing better, I think, than a wall of books is a wall of two books, you know, two bookcases. So we always knew that we would end up needing to expand into a second wall. And I just did that recently. And of course, repainted as well, because the house, when it was flipped, this is a very old house that was remodeled and repainted, and the entire house is a shade of beige, fairly uniform throughout. And I think after 10 years we finally decided to put a little bit of personal color into it. And we've started with two rooms, and this of course was the first, and the color you see on the walls behind me is Pigeon, which is a really beautiful, expressive name for a color that's a very greenish gray. But in some lights, especially cooler lights, it starts to look a bit blue. So it's perfect for a study area because it gives it a bit of coziness and has that sort of dark academic feel. And it's just a perfect backdrop for whatever intellectual enterprise you might have going on at the moment. I'm already finding it very, very inspiring. I'm inspired by color. I think you know that. It's whether it's in a pen choice or in my clothes or anything else, color certainly, it tells stories to me, and it gives me a backdrop on which I can project my dramas, if you will. And I've just really adored this color, and I'm so proud of ourselves for choosing it. I think my biggest fear in choosing this color was how it would have a conversation with this painting. Of course, this painting, when I bought it at auction, sight unseen, and I thought it was just a normal size painting, and we ended up having to rent a van to bring it home. But I really quite like it. Now I like the story and the whole history of it and sort of the farce that brought it here, but it looks like a museum piece here in our tiny little library, and I think I love it all the more for it. I actually think the color works quite well, and it gives a nice contrast. So it was always my goal to be surrounded by a cozy, comforting, safe wall of books on all sides of me. And ultimately, I think they will expand around the house, but especially here in this room, in our library. And what's really lovely is that I was a bit afraid that when we added the new wall that it would feel kind of too much in a way, like too overhanging, too foreboding, as if they were going to topple on me or some such. But that hasn't been the case at all. Probably because there was a bunch of stuff piled over there for a while that's now gone. So this is more orderly than what was there in the past. So it's given me a bit more harmony. And I think what's important is that when you develop a space to work, it needs to have that feeling of safety, of sort of insulation against outside influences, and I'd say distractions, but I will say how many times I look up and I see a title and I can just reach to it and pull it down and start reading. But that's spontaneous inspiration. So I actually adore that and I encourage that. But I want to tell you a bit about the desk and what my hopes were and whether or not it sort of reached what my highest aspirations for it were, where it's falling short so far, but where it's really gone beyond. So let me tell you about my new desk. I'm really excited about it. So happy it's here. I think it's going to become a bit of a character on the show as we go forward. And you might remember my old desk. It's actually still here. It might be in some of the background shots. I haven't had the heart to get rid of it. It's just sitting on the porch at the moment, but it was more of an open workspace, which is fantastic and probably more versatile than a desk like this secretary desk. However, I have a breakfast bar, I have a dining room table, I have other big flat surfaces, so I'm not really losing anything by having this here. I do like this feeling. It feels more academic to me, and in fact, it reminds me of those times 40 years ago at the Paul Robeson Library in Rutgers, where they had these sort of basic secretary desks that felt very comforting and sort of like little cells where you could study and really work on whatever it was that you were preparing for the semester. And it brings back a bit of that academic feeling for me. But I also had hoped that this would be a great desk for organizing many of my things and maybe even taking my inks off of my IKEA trolley and having them at the ready here in the desk. And I think that's where perhaps some of it has fallen a bit short, and I'll show you why. Let's take a little tour around the desk. Get this out of the way. But okay, I just want to show you some of these drawers. So I ordered this sight unseen. Part of the reason is that most of the old ones that I saw were just too large for the space. And part of wanting this was to bring my workspace closer to me. I didn't want anything over 50 inches, and it's really hard to find a roll top or a secretary that's vintage that's not too basic if it's smaller. And everything I saw online was gigantic, like 60 inches wide, and they were also quite worn. And this one needs to be able to be viewed from every side. And it's really lovely in the front back sides. So that was very important. But these drawers, they're fantastic. I love putting things in them. If we look at this drawer, it's really quite shallow. So it fits my antique magnifying glass, which by the way, I picked this up when I was around, I would say 10 or 11 years old. So probably around 1980, late 1970s. And it's been with me my whole life. It's really lovely, but it just about fits here. But what doesn't fit here is an ink bottle. So there was no putting inks in these drawers, but very nice for having my shop towel, absolutely necessary for any fountain pen enthusiast. Some of these are still empty. I haven't really found anything that'll fit there. Up here, very shallow spot, probably for letters, but even most letters don't really fit in here, but coasters do. I drink a lot of coffee, very important, not to mar up the desk. It has served as a lovely platform for Marcus Aurelius, my vintage ink pot. And this fantastic wax seal I picked up at the Commonwealth Pen Show. On this side, of course, I have Yorick, this exact replica skull of a human head. And this light from IKEA that was in the basement for a while, but I have ordered a new light from Venice that's coming in shortly that will replace this. And then here I have my stamps, my postage. And Of course, the ever important Highlander pen, which I've had for, gosh, 30 something years. And some bric-a-brac. You need to have your loop handy, your bone folder for letters. Here's some nibs. This is a top secret nib from Yoast, which I will show on the channel soon. Very exciting from Yoast. Apple Boom. And then this is for cleaning your nibs, so it's very handy to have that as well. So there are good spaces for some things, but not quite what I was expecting. I certainly wasn't able to put all my inks in here. Now, where it did surprise me is in these drawers. So I also do work here as a banker, and my work keyboard and mouse fits very nicely in here, and a backup loop, because you can never have enough loops. So I was very pleased that the keyboard fits in here. It actually fits perfectly, almost as if it were measured for it. These drawers have very nice action. Okay, so in this drawer we have all the essentials, including an incredible wood-handled Helly straight knife, which is fantastic for opening letters and for cutting boxes. So I always have this handy. I love this piece. It's absolutely gorgeous. You've probably seen it in some B-rolls. A couple letters I need to read. Working hands, very important. I have very dry hands, you've probably seen. So I try to keep them looking as nice as I can for different B-roll. A portable ink pot from the 19th century. Little glass bottle in here. I have yet to actually fill this. I'd like to, see if it still works. And I have a Watchman 52 handy, absolutely gorgeous pen with a flex nib. So nice. A couple of dip pens. And this pen case with all the essentials. By that, I mean a fantastic pencil sharpener. One of the best pencil sharpeners in the house, even though it's probably the cheapest. A highlighter pencil, so it never dries out. Some paste, which is important. If you're mailing a lot of letters, you don't want to lick them. That's not fun. And these, I recommend these to everyone. What is this? These are scissors. So you push this down, these pop out. And then they're fantastic, very sharp scissors. These come from Japan. I picked these up from Jet Pens, and it's light, it's just easy to use. They're fantastic. I buy these as gifts for a lot of people. Nice ruler, a couple of pens. Very pretty. One of my favorites right here. And then a Kakuno. You always have to have a Kakuno. And of course a notepad. So this is always handy. I go through this quite a bit. One of the last things is these little cubbies, which right now I have the pens that I'm using on a daily basis. This, of course, is the Lamy 2000, which I am working on a script for right now for a new video, focusing on its design, which I'm really excited about. And then this, one of my rarest birds in my collection. This is a vintage Italian fountain pen with a button fill. And what makes this so extraordinary, and I'll get into this in a lot more detail in an upcoming video, but it's this. An incredible, probably Murano glass nib that is so smooth, so lush and wet, and so fun to write with. This is a brilliant pen. I've been using it quite a bit, and it might be the ultimate fountain pen. It's really something. So I really want to share with you this blank journal company that I recently discovered. It's from the Netherlands, Rotterdam, and it's called About Blanks. And I just thought this was so interesting. So they take vintage books that are damaged or have run their course, and they use the covers to put blank books inside. So they use sketch paper. So it's really quite hardy paper. Now I've yet to use this, so I will report back once I use a fountain pen in it. But it's just so interesting because there's only one of these, so you can choose your cover. I quite like this one. I thought it was really interesting. I'm not sure entirely what it says. Maybe someone can tell me what it says, but it's a very, very fun and interesting way to create a quite large notebook for whatever it is that you want to use it for, or for a journal. So all in with shipping here to the United States, this was $50, and I think about half of that was shipping. It says About Blanks, unique notebooks made from old book covers and recycled materials. Looks like you can get it at about-blanks.com. So have I created the perfect dark academic workspace? I'm not sure. I mean, I've certainly created the perfect workspace for me right now. Now, I feel like perhaps this chair could be upgraded at one point, except I do have a bad back, and this chair doesn't seem to affect me in a negative way. So it's not going anywhere soon, because comfort and health is more important than aesthetics. So I think perhaps I found one thing that's more important to me than aesthetics. But the aesthetics of this room, the access, having my books close, nicely organized, nicely displayed, having my desk here where I can work, feel inspired and engaged. It just means so much to me. It keeps me motivated. It keeps me inspired. It's not easy creating interesting videos on a weekly basis. You need to refresh the reservoir constantly for new and unique perspectives and ideas. And to do that, you need a lot of sources, a lot of source material, some of it strange and maybe even seemingly disparate from what gets expressed in my films. But you need that. It's sort of like a funnel. It all channels through, it gets filtered, and it comes out. Because truly, from a fountain pen, you can go anywhere and everywhere. And I feel like we do. So I really appreciate you coming along on this journey with us. So if you've reached this point in the video, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you with us. And if you really want to support the channel, membership is available as well. Let me know in the comments if you enjoy this style of video, and I'll do some more. I want to share some of my study tips, some of my research tips, and everything else as we go forward. So I make new videos each week. I have a live show as well, so I can promise you we will see each other again very soon, further up the road. So take care of yourself, and thanks for watching.